Probably one of the most common questions I get asked is, does this have caffeine in it? And it's such an interesting question because there's so much you could unpack around it. But the first thing I kind of like to say, just to kind of jolt people out of that way of thinking, is that there's no such thing as caffeine. And when you actually start to break it down, caffeine is what's called a bondagen. So caffeine is never isolated anywhere in nature. So you don't find caffeine in a form where it is just that molecule anywhere. Instead, it's always bonded to different things. So that's why maybe you notice the caffeine in chocolate affects you different to the caffeine in coffee or the caffeine in tea. In tea, what it's bonded to is something called thiamine. So when these two chemicals come together, there's something actually really magic that happens. Cambridge University did a massive study on this, and basically all the benefits of caffeine are increased and all the negatives of thiamine are decreased. So you get this kind of magic coming together of two chemicals that are sort of just meant to be together. So caffeine, we obviously know, like, it stimulates us, it awakens us. Thiamine's role is actually it controls the GABA receptors in our brain. So it releases GABA into our body, which controls, say, muscle relaxation, nerve relaxation. So we start to actually feel more calm and centered. So that's why we look at tea more in the way of, and when I talk about it in yin and yang, or like a awakening, because we have this fixation on certain things. We like to break things down and just look at it through a particular lens. Oh, caffeine is bad, or I react this way to caffeine. But actually, every time we drink tea, it's going to be different depending on the processing, depending on how it's brewed, depending on the time of the day. So it's more finding things that are suitable for the right time, and also where we are in ourselves. I think ultimately we kind of break these things down into one part, but actually there is like a multitude of chemicals, of reactions, of things that are happening within the tea plant when we drink it. And caffeine and the caffeine bonded with thiamine is only one of millions. And yet we focus on that one without understanding it in relation to all the other parts. And also without understanding of the relationship to where we are, to how we're drinking, and also based on past experience. And, like most of the tea that we have drunk in our lives almost certainly has had a large amount of chemicals in it, a large amount of pesticides, and has probably been grown on a plantation. So it's not tea in the sense that the energy that's gone into it and also the literal chemicals that have gone into it have been medicine for our body. So a lot of the times people will drink tea with us and they're like, oh, I actually just feel calm and relaxed. I don't feel agitated. I don't have any of the effects of what caffeine was. And it's because it might not have even been caffeine that people are reacting to. It might have been some of the chemicals or some of the other things that have gone into that process. So I think just understanding and stepping away from that mindset, and that's why I like to talk about tea in a sense that, hey, this tea is awakening. Well, this tea is going to be calming, this tea is going to be yin, this tea is going to be inwards, this tea is going to be outwards, this tea is going to give you movement out into your day. I think that's a much more healthy way to look at things.